Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show. Back. So that'll actually be incumbent on Josh or Chris or something to get that soundbite if we're gonna do one of those intro things. Because actually, that was a pretty good version that day. Maybe here, I'll make it nice and easy for you. Josh, right? We'll give this job to Josh. Here we go. Ready? Me. I need one of those horns. You know, they're see? Me. All right, here we go. Bark. All right. There's your soundbite, Josh. Have fun with that one. Actually, I had my camera on here for the in Hangout people. So actually, you saw me. Like I took that really seriously and all. Anyway, morning, everyone. Welcome back to the frivolity. Suppose crypto kids took a big old punch in the nose there, man. Talk about don't fight the Fed, eh? Hey. If you are watching the Broiler Chicken Show and you are here to learn something, you got something right out of the gate if you've never heard that before. But I think, if anything, that probably should be the theme of today's episode. Chris, I like the idea. We should have a theme of the episode. As I'm blabbing away here, there should be some sort of theme that comes out of each of these. I think the theme now. The question is it this week or is it last week or is it the whole month of January? Is it the whole year of 2022? But I get the feeling don't fight the Fed could definitely be could be a talking point here. So it was interesting. Yeah, on the screen here, of course, you see our dashboard, and this is this incredible tool that Sjord has spent the past 3 or 4 years working away building out. I think it is at the point where it's now starting to give us some usable information, so that's kind of cool. I think also too, sadly, right at the end of the calendar year here, the S&P 500 stock index here, it's rolled over, and geez, it's gone nowhere but south. Sometimes this happens in capitalism, you know, it sucks. I mean, everybody's sort of like, hey, I thought this was rise only. Until the whole damn thing breaks and everybody's in shock and oh my god, account balances go zooming down. Then we all, you know, like it just keeps going until finally, you know, what's so funny is prices will fall appreciably, and you know, after they've fallen appreciably, then the banksters come in and go, oh, you want us to help you support the market? Okay, fine, we'll buy now. Then they support the market, they buy it, the market goes zooming up for a year or two, and of course they're unloading into those rallies, making beautiful profits, and rinse and repeat over and over. Hopping over to YouTube. All right, good luck. Don't hurt yourself. So you know, it's just capitalism 101. I did find it interesting when I looked at things like the S&P 500. Where are we here? I guess we'll get to this in a moment, but I wonder how we should do this. I would really like to almost try and force myself to commit to like a 20-minute sort of market summary kind of presentation. So before I go off on to any crazy tangents, if anything, what I want to do is I want to do the market summary, and then we'll say, okay, we'll come back to the January barometer after we're done. But I definitely think, you know, they say as the first month of the trading year goes, so goes the rest of the year. This is going to be a tough slog, folks. You guys have heard me talk about the Benner cycle. Man, I've been going on about that for a while now. If we'll know if Great Del Moody says yes, Brian. I had the Benner cycle noted from this date specifically when you started talking about it, and I've been talking about it for a while now. So again, half of your job here is to try and learn stuff. So if you don't know what the Benner cycle is, Benner, my suggestion is I think I've just given you your weekly assignment. TRI site member is actually Josh, who runs the TRI PMA Twitter feed now. He even did an updated version of it. Super cool. Also, too, on the website, and I really like this, is under our news tab, and I don't know whether I have this as sort of default that you guys can get. I don't know whether this is one of the templates that I have. I'm still vetting out because man, this world is so politicized. If you actually put the wrong sort of news source on here, you can polarize half your goddamn community just by putting on CNN here. Oh my God, CNN, you're a goddamn commie, Brian. It's incredible how polarized our society is, which sucks because it really means there's only one way that this ends. Too bad. Silly humans. Tell you, man. Yeah. You'd think that these silly humans would have learned by now. It's almost like they don't want to learn. So even having some fun jokes today about I think it's the president of El Salvador. Jeez. I think he's got himself in a little bit of trouble here with being so uber bullish about Bitcoin up top there. Sure hope they're going to learn. And actually, I even suggested on the site today, I was like, why don't we just reach out to these people? So well, I've turned the comments back on these videos. So leave in the comments, should we reach out to the president of El Salvador and just say, you know what? We'll do it for free. But everybody in El Salvador, since you are gung-ho on these cryptocurrencies and you've gone all in, maybe you should learn a little bit about just simple financial risk management. You're taking responsibility, and hats off to you. That guy's taking personal ownership. If you're going to be on the Bitcoin standard, then you got to understand what the hell value is and what is a stupid price to pay for Bitcoins given the current cost of production. Man, they got to learn that shit in a hurry. I'm not quite sure why the guy has gone so hard in up top here. Interesting. One of our Hangout members here is suggesting that he's a bit of a shady character himself anyway. I'm all about the PMA for the win. Like I said, I actually don't mind the idea because I need kind of a break from this crazy Canadian reality. I'll tell you what, President of El Salvador, I'll come down and I'll teach our course. We'll say the level 1, right? How to build a trading plan, how to effectively run a small business of trading. I'll do it for free. All I ask is just clear passage in and clear passage out, I suppose. But I'm getting a little bit concerned because I hate to say it and it sucks, but when the central planners, clearly the central planners were freaked out there a bit about a couple of years ago. Shouldn't we debate mortgaging the future of our kids? Shut the fuck up. All that kind of stuff. They were panicking. And they were just basically throwing bucket loads of money at the market. Just go spend money, have fun. And of course, what ends up happening is people go and just load up on real estate. Real estate prices go up 20, 30, 40% some places, 25% here locally in Vancouver. And people are wondering, so all that money that they injected into the economy just simply went into ramping up the prices of all these assets, and right across the board. Hence the quote unquote inflation that we're living with today. I don't know whether we'll get into the money masters angle of what that quote unquote inflation really is. Those are the kind of conversations, unfortunately, that can get you assassinated in this world. I will say one thing. I was so pleased that it put a big smile on my face yesterday, and this kind of off tangent, but man, it was so cool to see. This little guy had the balls to stand up to basically the leader of Netherlands or whatever, and ask him point blank why he is endorsing communist totalitarian dictatorship kind of mentality, listening to Klaus. I was so impressed with this guy. He's such a little cutie too. He just, like that could easily be my son. That's how old I'm getting now. He's such a little cutie, and he had the fucking balls to stand up to the leader of the Dutch Parliament. And number one, call him out for lying because he said, "I don't know anything about Klaus. I don't know anything about the book." And he's like, "Well, why are you lying to me now?" And he pulls out a letter saying, "Hey, Mr. Klaus, I love you," and all this kind of stuff. I love communism. It's the future. I thought it was just great. And we need more of this, right? All you millennials, we need you to stand up for your rights. I mean, it's one thing I don't like about this generation is it's almost like this generation has just said, "Look, there's no point in standing up. We're just going to go buy our bitcoins and sneak off into internet land and sort of, let's see if we can dig a tunnel and just bury ourselves and nobody will see us and we'll just disappear." That's almost the impression that I'm getting of this generation, which is a bit scary. I mean, ironically enough, to actually affect change, you need guys like this to actually stand up, and he might get assassinated. It sucks. It's the price you pay for our freedom. Kind of like what I'm doing here on a weekly basis. I'm not bullshitting you guys. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just, speaking my mind, just trying to stand up and say, "Hey, you know what? You know what? Oh boy, here we go. You know fucking what? All right. There are people in my family who fought and died in the Second World War, First World War, specifically, especially the problem is, of course, the Canadians are so damn patriotic, they kind of lose focus that we're just puppets of these, European powers. But I grew up with my family members, my stepmothers, who basically was, sadly, I learned later on, she was basically hired to take care of us as children. But that's another conversation for another day. Her father was a tank commander, and he literally, he came back from World War II. But as a tank commander, you can imagine how many of his boys. Yeah. These people fought and died for the freedoms that people like Chak Pak just say, it's not my problem. That would make their spirit just sick, knowing that they fought and died for ideals and people are just, so what? Don't give these freedoms up, because I tell you, man, once they are gone, they are gone. And it's damn difficult to get them back. So, like I said, I'm utterly pleased and impressed I saw this. Now, this might be a bit old. I don't know. But I was damn impressed with this guy. Hats off to you, sir. Stand, and if anything, we need more of that. Please, for God's sakes, people, don't lose the precious freedoms that our previous generations believed that they were fighting and dying for to preserve. All right, enough of that. Sorry, everybody. Big sigh. So theoretically, according to our format, trying to stay on task, supposed to do a bit of a sort of a economic summary of what happened in the past week, about 5-10 minutes. A news sort of summary, kind of couple them together, and of course, it's politically weighted. What is actual news? Then, actually, what I'd really like to do, and I'd even like to try, and I'm going to have to tinker with the website a little bit, but we have like this econ calendar from TradingView. So maybe I could expand this out to the full size of the page here, and I could just speak off of this. We'll see how it goes. But I think we should be able to do like sort of first 20 minutes of this show here, just right off of the web page. I think it should be a good promotion for the site anyway. So this past week, I think probably the biggest thing that we saw that jumped out at me econ wise was, of course, pretty big headline numbers, inflation. I think that's still, it's got a lot of people's attention. One thing I did notice, a bit surprising to me though, is different parts of the world are having different inflation rates. And is the inflation rate here a function of actually really, really bad policy and bad mismanagement? From what I understand, there's just it's almost laughable how bad the bottlenecks are getting in the west coast of the United States, trying to bring goods into the country. So, is this inflation, quote unquote, that we're dealing with right now just purely a function of really, really bad policy? And it could be, could really well be. Lack of goods basically creates scarcity, and people need those goods, and their perception of need, of course. If they've got a bunch of money sitting there in the bank and they really want those bonbons, well, you find that bonbon prices are going through the roof. I was interested to see something that did catch my interest over the past week was seeing that the U.S. housing market, the building rate, still pretty damn strong. One thing we should probably watch for going forward here is going to be, now that interest rates are turning, and I think you can discernibly see longer rates moving higher. Is that affecting the mortgage market? And then what ends up often happening is at the very end of that sort of long-term trend, and where interest rates actually are perceived to be going up, there's a huge late rush into the market, and one more sort of parabolic move to the upside. And I kind of see that happening in Canadian bank stocks, right? You guys have heard me, of course, talk lots about Canadian bank stocks over the years. Oh, by the way, good example of Brian just trading. Traders got trade. There was this nice little inverted head and shoulders that came in. Huge run up on this little altcoin. It rolled over, started to break down, and I had a lot of people on the site say, well, Brian, when you saw these M's, wouldn't you start getting concerned and want to pull bids? And I was like, well, you know what? I said that I was going to buy against the bottom end of the range if it did come back in. Sometimes you actually get M's in this pattern, where if you're at the bottom end of the range and in green boxes, you'll often get, actually, no, like there. You actually get harmonic patterns that develop, and believe it or not, a move to 1.13 actually is not out of the question on a setup like this. And that's actually a trade location. Boo, hiss, hiss, boo. But I was kind of hoping that we were kind of shooting for things like Gartley's here. So I bought that and just basically risked against the lows. And I even tweeted out when I saw this break, I was like, I'm out of here. Get me the fuck out. So actually, I did close this out, and I even put it on the site that I closed the trade out. But some people were kind of like, "Well, Brian, why would you buy with the M staring in the face?" And believe it or not, and this is why I don't like new people to trading to use harmonics, because it can totally distort a lot of the message. This is not sort of a beginner, sort of nice, pretty W working a stink bid here. This was assuming a bit of an advanced program, a harmonic. But anyway, and as you can see, it didn't work. And so I got stopped out, and next bus in 10 minutes. But what was I talking about there? I wanted to show you. Oh, yeah, the bank stocks. I get the impression, and I tell you, man, I really like the idea that I've got Canadian dollars sitting around. Man, I really like the idea of going down and buying some cheap Brazilian real estate. I mean, just even back, this is actually the start of the U.S. financial asset crisis, right? How ironic, eh? Canadian dollar versus the Brazilian real was a buck and a half. And here we are now. Canadian dollar versus Brazilian real is $4.50. I mean, as just simple technicians, we should probably think about just a 50% retracement kind of here. So I've got a bunch of Canadian dollars, and I'm wondering what the hell do I do with them? And I'll tell you, man, Brazilian. The only problem is Brazilians. They're on the other side of the damn world. It takes forever to get down there. I don't know. I'll get a cart Liam and his whole crew down there. That might be a bit tough. But man, that's awfully tempting when I see a chart like that. And how this is, if anything, this is perfect contrarian, because I thought it was interesting recently. I've been humming and hawing about. I was looking at Intel and I was comparing Intel's price action. Whoops. Oh, I am TC. To Microsoft, and I noticed, oh geez, actually it hasn't quite broken out yet, but there, interestingly enough, there's Intel that's on a yearly chart. It has not even gotten back to its old 2000 highs. But what I find fascinating about Intel, all of a sudden, mysteriously now, people are saying, oh, actually, they're actually getting into the crypto mining business. Oh boy, here we go. So I do find that fascinating. And I've been humming and hawing about this damn stock. Should I step in and pick some up? Don't know whether I like that location there off of like sort of like oops, where do we go here? Let's even go look at a weekly chart. Yeah, I was looking at it a month or two ago, so trades are probably already happened now. It is pulling back. It's interesting to see the whole damn market pulling back. Like I had said earlier, holy for holies. I don't know what the hell's coming down the pike, but man, the whole damn market is just right on its knees here. This is not a good sign for those people who are risk takers. You know what I would say though is this is actually a pretty good sign for crypto, because the one thing you don't want is you don't want sort of a happy-go-lucky risk market and crypto getting getting ripped apart because of this scandal, because of that hack, because of this rage quit, because of this regulation, stuff like that. If you have crypto going down because it's going down in sympathy with the broader market, I think sympathy is the right word, then what that means is, man, it's just another asset in the marketplace. And I think that's what actually set up this absolutely insane buy a couple of years ago. Whatever the hell that chart is. Oh, darn. I had it on here. This, Kevin's killer buy. I'd love to make Kevin famous for that trade, because man, that was such a cool trade to watch play out. But can't find it. I don't know what they did with it. It's over here. Darn. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So, ironically enough, with regard to Bitcoin, this move here, that big ass dump, and keep in mind, the silly price of Bitcoin was 10 G's there. Went all the way down to $3,800. So this is like a 60-70% correction right there. Boosh. Merry Christmas. That had absolutely nothing to do with Bitcoin. It had everything to do with the whole damn world's falling apart. So, and of course, look at what the other side is. The whole world's falling apart. Now, hopefully you all learned the lesson. When you hear the politicians basically give a massive bailout, for lack of a better term, carte blanche, and the guy who says, should we really do this? They all go and shut up. And this is the end result of that event. This is it. That is the financial expression of that stupidity. But look what ends up happening when people try to inject sanity in the face of insanity. The worst part about these silly humans is that when you try to inject sanity in the face of insanity, you might actually lose your life. These people could get pretty damn serious. So, a word of caution, when we are down below, do not make fun of the public. You're just asking for trouble. When we're down here, do not learn that, especially if you go and make a pile of money, right? Ironically enough, the guys who do make a lot of money, you have to be very quiet down here. You have to be very humble. You have to be very sedate, and you cannot go around and go, I told you so. I told you so. You just can't. So as price comes down here, I can sit here and go, this is getting awfully expensive. The worst part about it is up top here, it doesn't matter what I say. I can't stop you people from buying. I can't. It's almost impossible. Because you know what ends up happening when I say, the rule is you should try and buy at like 70-80% corrections, reload zones, all that kind of stuff. Do you know what people say when we're up here? Let's see, it's 4 words, and one of the words is a contraction. Oh, hey, there's Grim. Hey, Grim. You got your camera on. Hey, how's it going, Slick? Grim just actually, do you have a standing desk? I gotta get one of those. My big fat lazy ass. I sit way too much. That's smart. Anyway, Grim, you want to come on and say hello to the good people? Grim's our level 1 instructor, so whenever I bark about the Wookiee, this is the Wookiee, and they all just got a big dose of him this morning. How's it going, sir?
Pretty good. How you guys doing? I love your background there, Brian.
Let's see if you know what the line is. What would I tell, like literally every single one of you those first few years when I taught the education program, when somebody would say, how is Brian doing? I'd say, let's see if he knows the line.
Oh, man, no, don't put me on the spot. I don't know.
I'd say, I'm doing a lot better now that I've heard from you. Do you remember that? I used to always say that to
That's
everybody.
right.
Anyway, all right. So anyway, did you guys have fun in class today?
I think so. It's a pretty active class. I like that.
Oh, that's good. All right, cool. I suppose these students right now are going to be learning a very hard lesson about don't chase. And if they did chase, our suggestion for you is, believe it or not, I mean, we're on a really nasty downswing here right now. You can see on the chart on the screen. So it's going to be a bit of a slog. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sort of bounce, but don't count on it like, making your day. The interesting thing about this kind of market, which scares me a little, is technically this, especially if we go down and bust out these lows, is this is actually going to make what's called a megaphone pattern, which is horrible because it means that basically our world is a world of volatility over the next little while. I mean, this is just going to be a mess. So what this really should do is this should favor those people that really know how to behave and know how to manage emotions. Like as we come down against these lows here, there's gonna be an injection of a lot of an emotion in this space, folks. This could get really crazy in here. Just a public service message. I spent some time through this past week in the daily videos that I do on the site, just telling people, look, number one, it's just money. Number two, there'll always be another bull market. Ironically enough, the bear market that's being carved out today actually sets the stage for the next bull market, because ironically enough, when we actually turn here, think of it this way. If we actually end up turning at some point down here and we start heading back up, what's Brian going to be saying? Let's see if you guys can read my mind. Two words. They both start with the letter L. Thank you. Romaine? Is that like romaine lettuce? Is that the same kind of romaine? I don't know whether I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Anyway, I hope I am. God to remove all your dreams and hope and read the charts. There you go. Well, what I would say is don't bring your emotions to trading. If anything, what we want to do here is, and actually I even heard Wookie even saying it in the class here this morning, is ironically enough, to do this correctly, trading actually should be kind of boring. It should be very mechanical. It should be very laid out. Sort of like what you see on the screen here. You can see price isn't anywhere near me actually realizing this, right? And of course, W's, Brian buys W's, and you'd see megaphones are going to be looking for a target up here, and that's going to set up just insane. Somebody just eyeball that. What do you think the risk reward ratio on a trade like buying here and risking against like a triple bottom there and forcing yourself to stay in the trade until we hit the megaphone peak target? Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But what do you think the risk reward on that kind of trade is? And do you think this is setting up today? No. I mean, we can just, it's probably some absolutely insane number. But, this is sort of the life you have to live as a trader. And in a weird sort of way, the only way you could actually manufacture 5-1. Okay, so actually it wasn't nearly as great as I thought it was. Anyway. The only way that you can really even consider this kind of thing happening is you have to have this big, ugly washout, bring the prices back down off of this insane peak so that it can set up this, very much like what we did here. I mean, I don't know how long does it, this is a weekly price chart. This took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks. What is that? It's like 2.5 months. At the very best, right? We're probably thinking at least a good month or two before this thing actually starting to issue buy signals. So, but the point being is you got to get this to set up this. You can't have it any other way. So, this is always a great analogy of why you want to keep some powder dry. And the expression keep powder dry is, just have a bit of cash. I mean, maybe you have it in a stable coin. Maybe you have it in a fiat currency of your choosing. I wouldn't suggest something like the Turkish lira as a stable coin right now. That's kind of defeating the purpose. But generally speaking, we try to keep our assets in like whatever the most stable sort of fiat proxy is. And the worst part about it, of course, is now we are back in an inflationary world. None of them are really that stable at all. And frankly speaking, all you crypto kids, that's the whole reason why you're in this is technically none of these fiat currencies have any value at all. Hey, there you go. There's a slap in the face. If anything, it's one thing I've learned over especially this 10-year that I've had in crypto. And I realized that we're coming up on 8 years now. So 8 years we've been in this market doing this. What I find fascinating about this is, I don't mean to be rude, guys, but actually this story is pretty damn cliche. And really, it's just a question of you having patience and discipline. So just this past correction, I often tell people this is half the reason why I did the reload zone. And I often tell you guys, markets love to go and double bottom off 78.6s. So this last correction was just absolutely stunningly cliche. Counter trend rallies right to mountain man levels. I mean, again, this is everything that I teach you in these silly courses. And then pullbacks right down to 88.6s, Wyckoff checks against the double bottom. Again, guys, this is stunningly cliche. What I do find really interesting, and this is, I think, a very crypto specific story, is this sort of bottoming right into this very important fundamental event, which has to keep happening in crypto. It's not like this is not going to happen. And the interesting thing about this is you know specifically, almost exactly when this is going to happen. And you don't believe that the market bottoms and then right after halving goes through its fucking apeshit cycle? There's one example, and oh, gee whiz, you go back in time, and gee whiz, there's another example. I mean, this thing hasn't been around that long, folks, and yet it keeps doing the exact same damn thing over and over and over and over. So, what I find really interesting is what you really should do is take a screenshot of this image. And probably the most important numbers here to watch are this image, how long it takes for the market to actually bottom, that blue line there, to when it actually issues its first weekly W following the carnage. In this particular case, it took 25 weeks. This last particular case, right here, this one, it took 17 weeks. So remember, I just told you, I showed you, that turn here. This took like 12 weeks to turn back up. So the irony of it all is that bottoms, they take their sweet ass time. And what's so funny is you get to the point where, especially with these bottoms, everybody is just thinking, well, it's just going to make another leg lower. It's just going to make another leg lower. And that, ironically enough, is actually when you should buy. Is when we get to the point where everybody's just assuming, of course, reload zones. I mean, what I find fascinating is, and Louis Rukeyser used to always say this. I'm sure it's somebody else in history that actually quoted it. But this is the only business when stuff goes on sale. And just write this down. 70-80% discount on aisle 3. These things called Bitcoin. They're going on sale, folks. That's all you need to remember. In fact, there's a guy who, guy's fucking going to be richer than probably all of us put together by the end of all this. And he probably is now. It's just he's a very private guy, so you'll never hear about him. He's probably going to be like a Rothschilds kind of guy. But the guy who runs the Bank to the Future place, who I've said repeatedly, I think he's the number one reason why Bitcoin even survived through this. Because trust me, there was a couple times when if it wasn't for Bank to the Future, this Bitcoin story was toast. Anyway, he tells his audience, what's his name again? Simon Dixon, something like that. Dixon? Yeah. He just said, just wait for a price to correct 70 to 80%. It's just that simple. And the irony of it all is at the 80% correction, what's fascinating through this was there were even Wall Street guys coming out publicly and saying, we've milked this thing for just about as much as we possibly can. We probably should just get the hell out of here, cover our shorts. I mean, how much more are you going to milk out of this thing? It's dropped like 80% from the peak. I mean, you're really going to go for that last drop of blood? Actually, the smart guys, they're the guys who are just like, okay, let's not push this. So anyway, see how it goes. And as I said, I mean, if we're going to teach a course on what does the killer frickin' trade, well, when was the last time you ever listened to Joey Diamond on advice on Bitcoin? I mean, come on, what are you, on drugs? Who said that? And if you don't know who Joey Diamond is, yeah, get your butt in the school. Get to know that Wookiee guy, and we'll educate you. Oh, every single day, eh? I didn't know that. Yeah, well, that guy's one smart ass motherfucker. Somebody says Simon Dixon has a content on YouTube daily, so Joey Diamond. Yeah. Well, no, we can't say. Don't say that word. You have to say Joey Diamond, right? So you don't want to trip up the Google. Even probably they even track the Hey, those guys are so powerful. They can go over to fucking China and say, you know what? We're more powerful than you are, Winnie the Pooh. I mean, that's how fucking powerful these people are. So I'm sure he probably laughs at a little punk ass bitch like me. But yeah, way I wouldn't if ironically enough, if you actually listen to anything that Joey suggests about Bitcoin, probably do the exact opposite thing because that's probably the smart thing to do. We used to always say that about Goldman Sachs. Always. If they tell you to do, if they come out publicly, in fact, it's interesting as things come around, go around. Who? Let's see if you already know the answer, but let's see if you can jump like a monkey. Who told you to buy Bitcoins right here? Big public document. Buy Bitcoin right there. And I gave you the answer just a moment ago. So Joe Diamond is a super nice fellow. Is he? I don't know if he is or not. Yeah. Anyway, it's on public record, so it's not BS, but literally Goldman Sachs came out and publicly recommended buying Bitcoin here. Publicly. That's the key. Now, when Goldman Sachs comes out with a very public document like that, is there anything in particular in the recommendation that they will unequivocally say to basically relieve them of any real sort of serious liability? The answer, obviously, if I ask a question like that, is yes. And they say you have to have a 3 to 5 year time horizon. Well, yeah, I mean, everything, there's no guarantees in any of this. So that makes sense. I mean, the sad part about it is Goldman Sachs was even taking short bets on quote unquote guaranteed investments through 2008 financial crisis, right? I mean, just before. So that's the tragedy of this. I mean, guaranteed. What does that mean? So, U.S. government, I mean, technically you could argue that the U.S. housing market was doomed. The day that the U.S. government came in and said that they would guarantee these loans to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which were basically lending money to lower income, lesser quality credit borrowers. You could argue that the U.S. housing market that at some point somebody was going to come along and test that guarantee, and that's basically what 2008 financial crisis is. And we're all living the end result of that. The quote unquote guarantee is simply that if somebody did call the paper, we would all collectively bite the bill. That's what it means. So, quote, in crypto, we used to call them socialized losses. I don't know whether you ever heard that term before. Actually, have we done one of those socialized losses events in crypto lately? I haven't seen one of those in quite a while. I don't know if anybody can remember that. But if you can remember socialized losses in crypto, then really what you're seeing happen in the world right now and how our standard of living is just absolutely collapsing in front of our eyes this is socialized losses. Remember, one guy in that 2008 financial crisis took $1 trillion out of the market in profits. One person. Where does that 1 trillion come from? Well, it comes out of all of us. I thought it was funny the other day. Even the sacred cow of milk is now the local politicians are trying to figure out a way to somehow, because milk is highly, highly regulated here in Canada. And they even have like milk pricing boards, and they have like massive government subsidies so that the milk farmers are nice and happy and well financed. And now the government is trying to finally figure out a way to get those milk prices to rise. And their cheeky way of doing it now is the milk cartons, technically you weren't supposed to be able to recycle them. There's supposed to be enough bacteria in there that it's just not recyclable. Oh, but mysteriously now you are going to be charged a recycling fee on the milk carton. What? But it's not a milk tax. It's not a tax on the actual milk. It's just a tax on the carton. Because after all, we're environmentally friendly. And how dare you use a milk container made of plastic? Oh, what a fucking joke. Oh, goodness. So it's a great analogy. And this is what we're going to, and the worst part about Canada is we're already taxed out the ass. We're like one of the heaviest, hardest tax societies, everything. And the one thing that pissed me off the most, like one of the reasons why I left the brokerage industry, was that they even started to actually introduce taxes on things like keeping your license going as a licensed stockbroker. What do you say, Brian? How do you get, is it a tax? Well, they have continuing education requirements. And in 2007, 2008, I had to sit and listen to some fucking total idiot engineer clown tell me that $4,000 copper or $4 a pound copper was completely justifiable. And that you could run a mine off of like a fraction of what the historical norm, like normally in the mining industry, they say to be able to justify building a mine, you need 3 to 4 grams per ton of ore. And this clown here is saying, well, I think you could justify building a mine at like 0.3 of a gram per ton. Just absolutely insane numbers. But the only reason why he was saying that is because that's what current prices in the market were. So he had to somehow fundamentally justify his job. And you can't go in and say, well, prices are too high. You probably shouldn't buy right now. You literally can't say that and have a job in the securities industry. Everything is always a buy. So, it's kind of like Bitcoin right now. I try and talk to you guys about silly things like the cost of production. What is the fundamental value of one Bitcoin? And whenever I have these conversations with people, it's almost like I am, I don't know. I wouldn't use the word kryptonite, but kind of like that. Kind of like, oh my God, oh Jesus Christ, don't show me that. I don't want to see that. Oh, fuck me. And the worst part about it is actually these are pretty generous cost of production. There's actually a company that I'm a shareholder of, and their cost to produce a Bitcoin is $3,000 US. Oh, what did you just say? Totally. Grim saying valuations, fundamentals. What the fuck does that mean? Give me more money. Shouldn't we debate mortgage? Fuck off. Well, I have to try and get rid of the F bombs. I don't know what it is. I like swearing on YouTube. It makes me feel powerful. I don't know.
There was a
Graham. Hey, Graham. Oh boy, here we go.
There was this video a while ago that was talking about he's an Irish comedian, and he was talking about how the Irish have this beautiful language in their soul, but they're forced to speak English. So that's why they swear all the time, because it's basically their way of trying to force elegant words out through this English language.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. I think the guy might have been full of fucking shit, but that's.
Yeah, I like it. It's plausible. It works. I don't know. You know what I probably need, to be perfectly honest with you, it's about time. Love you, JoJo, but I gotta let you go. I really need a woman in my life, man. I need a woman to keep me honest. Just get me sort of back on track. So, and yeah, okay. Well, anyway. Okay, so I mean, I don't know how you want to look at it. This is a crypto sort of oriented program, so I have been sort of going off a little bit on crypto here. But as I sort of said, if you really are a serious investor, I'm not, like the crypto kids, fucking A, man, have fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't have fun. But if you're like, well, Brian, I want to like invest like, hundreds of thousands, maybe a serious chunk of money into this, you can't take this stuff lightly. And what really bothers me about, the El Salvador guy here is he's just like piling in. I mean, if he is dollar cost averaging and doing basically the same dollar equivalent amount purchase, so as prices coming down here, he's actually buying more Bitcoins with his subsequent purchases, then fucking A, man. All the power to you. Just keep on keeping on. And really, I don't have a problem with all of you if you want to do that. But that means that when price starts backing off, don't stop. And what kills me, I notice a lot of people is as price starts backing off, then they sort of go, okay, well, I'm not going to dollar cost average anymore because this thing's going down. I'm losing money and people are making fun of me at dinner parties and stuff. And that's usually what the opportunity you miss, right? I built this sort of reload zone kind of concept. You want to wait. And really, this El Salvador guy, that's exactly what he should have been doing. Is just, kind of what Mr. Dixon says. Same sort of thing. I love Bitcoin. I hate the U.S. Federal Reserve System. Why is money based on the American debt system? I mean, they're up to their eyeballs in debt. And now you can see that they're actually their whole society could very easily start crumbling into civil war if this gets any much more out of hand here, because the bankers are trying to sort of, how do we say this? Finesse their way out of this current debt situation. I love that fundamental talk. That fundamental talk is the shit. That's the shit. But because you like the fundamental backdrop, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're buying value. We talked about cost of production there a moment ago, but just, if you keep in mind, a lot of people, when they look at price charts, like JoJo, she used to suffer from this. She look at a price chart and it just make her sick to her stomach. So a lot of people don't like looking at these kind of price charts. But what I would say, and I've noticed this pattern, I think this is the most important part of this image, is we seem to go through pretty typical, and we can go back and look at the previous cycle. I tweeted this out, so by all means, if you want to go into the tweet and just copy this. But we seem to go through about a 1-year correction. You can call it a crash if you need to. What's fascinating is we go through a transition period, sort of from like top to bottom. It's about a year, and that's what usually happens. And then it's about a half a year or so that we go through the process of actually bottoming out, and then we actually start coming out the other side. And what I also noticed is once we've hit this bottoming window and you actually start seeing weekly W's starting to come back in and stuff, the sentiment itself is usually extremely negative and skeptical. And if anything, it's like, and I'm going to try and publish this. I'll try and sort of keep, I've done this now a couple cycles. So this is the one, and like I said, I tweeted this out. We'll just keep an eye on these things and see how it develops. You can see that the numbers are slightly different, but in essence, about a year or so correction from sort of top to bottom, and about like that half a year to turn the corner. This one took a little longer to get going. There was one more FU out of Phoenix, ironically enough. Then there was a big sort of government auction, and this is, I often make reference to Ethereum did what I thought was a typical sort of similar type trade, 61.8 retracement, and then never looked back. Ethereum might actually even be doing this as we speak right now. This sort of pullback against the bottom end of the range here and just sort of go sideways and grind for the next 6 months. I could see that, especially with the way DeFi is evolving. But hopefully you see that same image, right? That image, that big correction, small bottoming window. And what I noticed is that sort of the period from when this bottom actually comes in and then the halvening event, it seems to be about a year or so, somewhere in that area. Like, so that was in that particular case, you saw that was 53 weeks. In this particular case, from the actual bottom, right up into the halvening, well, that was actually about 74 weeks. So some are a little bit longer, some are a little bit shorter, but in essence, that's that same sort of image. Then what I noticed is like a pullback. In essence, what's really interesting about this is you can see that it's so mathematical. Big run up, pull back into reload zones. Then bottom, big rally up into mountain man. You could argue reload zone, right? Original market structure top. Then rejection back down into reload zone. In this case, 88.6. And then this window, and this is, I think, honestly, guys, I think it's just this simple. That when we get in this window, this is exactly the time when you go and get that mortgage and fucking just load up on the corn. I really think that, because if you look at this, it didn't really, this played out absolutely textbook. Keep in mind, that's fucking like 20-fold increase. This one didn't play out as politely. The funny thing, poor old Fjord, is there's that rally off of the bottom. Reload zone it just tagged 61.8 and then just went sideways. And then the market started to break out. And then, of course, there's your halvening. And literally, like I said, if you could just put yourself on a buy program from sort of the end of this sort of bottoming period, the market's actually put in that weekly W, and you're just accumulating. This one, it was tough. And it was so sad because poor old Fjord, I think we got up to this level, and he didn't really have too much Bitcoin. No, actually, I guess it was down in, it might have been actually against the original bottom. And he was working his reload zone bids down in here, and the market just never came back. In fact, he was kind of like, okay, I'll reload zone now. No, sorry. Reload zone now. No, sorry. So once you get on the other side of the halvening event, it's almost like, oh, shit. She's just going to go. I suppose you could make the argument there was a very, very quick pullback to 50% rule. Maybe that was a half decent buy window. That would have been tough. Maybe like Wyckoff check, but probably technically that would have been a very difficult trade to take. But I guess just the point is, following that bottoming window in through sort of that reload zone check of the original double bottom, this is the sexy sex time for Bitcoin. Not right now, right? Unfortunately, right now, this is like, it's indigestion time. What I'm really worried about here is this made a higher high. I think I showed you this a moment ago. So what that implies is actually that this is some sort of crazy ass fucking megaphone. Which means this isn't going to be easy. I think we have enough lows here. That low, that low, that low, that low, that low, that low. There's a hell of a lot of lows. There should be some sort of support here. What pure conjecture. If this actually is a megaphone and we do actually come down and dump and say take out these lows, then what this actually says to me is it goes like there to whatever this low is, there to there. And then, believe it or not, I'm thinking, all right, let's find some sort of W. Just give me something. And then, believe it or not, actually, I think we go all the way right back up there. So, oh man, what a mess. Also, too, you've probably heard me talk about the decennial study. And I love this kind of thinking. It'd be interesting. Bitcoin hasn't been around long enough. It'd be interesting to do something like this on gold and maybe the various commodities that do have a lot of history. But gentlemen that I respect immensely, and I teach a lot of concepts off of that website, is I'll only show you this just because I do show it quite a bit, but YouTube audience, I don't know whether you've seen this or not before, but go on the YouTube stream and check out. Come on. Oh my goodness. Wow. I sure do tweet a lot. This study here. And also, this is Mr. Larry Williams, Williams percentage R, Willie indicator, that guy. This is a video that sort of an annual sort of what to expect going forward kind of idea view. Shill for his newsletter. Not surprising. But I think this is a really good study. It's not even Larry's. It's a gentleman by the name of Edgar Lawrence Smith, who lived quite some time ago. In fact, actually, Mr. Buffett, he even really likes this study. So you can see first half of the year. Oh boy, what a mess. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm just gonna probably be expecting, and a lot of people in crypto don't like this, but frankly speaking, you just better get used to it because I don't. It's been this way the entire time I've been in crypto. I don't see any reason why it would change. Crypto, in my opinion, is a risk asset, just like things like crude oil, believe it or not, that a commodity that's actually used, I believe, is a risk asset. The only problem here is, clearly we have a massive disconnect because, frankly speaking, I don't think that the oil market is moving off of fundamentals like supply and demand in the marketplace. The oil market now is moving off of the fact that we potentially have a hot war brewing in Eastern Europe. They always say, and this will be really interesting to see, and it would make perfect sense considering I'm such a US dollar bull right now. Although I got my fucking ass kicked on those stupid call options. But anyway, it's trader's life. But I wouldn't be surprised as soon as the bullets actually start flying. There's actually just a massive exit out of all commodities, all stocks, and everybody and their brother will run into the US dollar in the 2-year bond. That's usually what happens. And that's under the and keep in mind, I've participated in the market since I did my first trade in 1988, I guess. So that's predicated on me living in a world where the U.S. has been perceived as the ultimate winner in the shooting match. Here's the problem: is that politicians are one thing, but when the U.S. military is kicked in and sort of given the green light, all right, go. Oh boy, do they ever kick ass! And their technology is just, like I appreciate the Russians are very spirited. Like sadly, when the Russians fought the Germans, it was something like at one point, it was like a 10-to-1 kill ratio. So the Russians can lose a lot of lives. And I'm worried that Mr. Putin says go, and the American military machine, they are very, very good at murdering. We could see a lot of lives lost, a lot of lives. Oh boy, I sure hope Mr. Putin's ready for this. Anyway, point being that usually once the bullets start flying, I believe that the American military is still predominant over the rest of the world's participants. We'll see. Only time will tell. But in my lifetime, every time the bullets actually start flying, everybody just runs right into the US dollar. Everything, all risk, all taken off the table. So maybe to a certain degree, people might even be doing that right now to a certain degree. I don't know. But risk is coming off here big time. And as I said before, I don't mind this. This is very deflationary. So technically, all you people, the reason why you like Bitcoin so much is you're so worried about inflation. And I can tell you, we have a big old shooting match and all hell breaks loose in the world. That is deflationary. Deflationary. So we'll see how that goes. And like I said, usually when the bullets start flying, money just comes right out of the market and just goes straight into the US dollar. So mark my words. And you're gonna think, well, no, money will go flying into gold, but it won't. That's the weird thing. Is people will just get the fuck out and they will go, I'm sitting in cash. I think that these guys are gonna win the fight, and I'm just gonna sit there in their T-bills and just chill. And I'm not gonna take the chance of going and buy a big whack of gold here because the price of gold might fall apart. And then if I need that money because there's a fucking nuclear war or something, and the Americans are like, hey, we only accept US dollar bills. If you don't have US dollar bills, I don't give a shit. I mean, it's great and all. I mean, you could bribe somebody with a big whack of gold, but the question is, are you going to get fair value for that actual money, for the asset? I wouldn't be surprised if you had like a ton of gold and you needed to get rid of it to get cash to actually make an interest payment or something like that. You could probably get screwed if, push came to shove. You could probably get screwed on the negotiation price pretty easily. So anyway, point being, risk coming out of the market as it stands right now, you can see, and it's interesting how gold and oil are kind of, I think they're actually having a little bit of a tug of war right now going on. If the bullets start flying and all hell breaks loose, I can see oil getting bid up into the event, but once the event happens, all bets are off. Man, this is a tough world we're living in right now. It's not only do we have the sickness, now we've got Vladdy over there saber rattling. And also, too, you might argue that half of the reason maybe why he is saber rattling, I don't know how bad the sickness situation is over there, but you might find that this actually makes a great distraction from how bad the sickness is. And, if you're in power and you're a totalitarian dictator, you want to find any story to talk about, anything other than day after day after day, the leadership can't do anything as this sickness just ravages the population. So it does make sense to me too that he's trying to come up with some sort of distraction here. I can understand that. Anyway. Okay, so it's about 11:47. I've been blabbing away here for an hour or so. I think about a half hour or so ago, the level oneers finished. So I've just been sort of blabbing away. I don't know whether you got any value out of that. Hopefully I said something that was of some sort of value. Half of the reason why I did this weekend show is I like to speak to the level one class. I don't know how big the class is, but I got a funny feeling it's another big one, eh? You got a number, Grim? How many people are you corralling there? All right, he said he's going to check. DMAC, I'm not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. The sad part about it is it's kind of like us. We can bitch and complain about Joey Diamond, but is there any way in hell that anything that we're going to do is going to change any of that? Sad part about it is the answer is no. If anything, what I want to do is I want you guys, Jesus, really? All right, so that's good. Maybe we're another opportunity to make a pretty damn big impact on this world, eh? So Grim's telling we got another 130 people here in the level one program. Hey, caramba. So I think have we got 3 TAs? No, Shark Toshi, he's such a
we've got 2 TAs. So we got Shark Toshi and in North America, and we've got Peter over in Europe.
Right. So I guess Andrew, he didn't come on line. Andrew, where are we? Need you. Maybe it might be a good idea that maybe we even with such a large class, maybe we even have like any of our OGs want to be like a TA assistant to help those guys if they need any, because I don't want Shark Toshi and Peter to feel overwhelmed. But
yeah, for sure. If you're a site veteran and you're interested in fielding any questions that make sense, just shoot me an email or PM, and I will add you to the channel.
Sick.
And,
and
don't feel like you have to answer everything. Just if it's something that that you've got some knowledge on, by all means.
So, and you've got a couple office hours sessions through the week too, as well, right? Eh?
Yeah, Tuesdays and Thursday evenings, 6 to 9 Pacific time.
Okay, cool. So, this is our opportunity to make a dent. This is how we're going to be able to empower the following generations. There's nothing we can do about Joey now. He's got us by the short and curlies. The only question here is, can we affect future generations? Can we, somehow reach out to the president of El Salvador and say, hey, for God's sakes, if you're going to buy Bitcoin, wait for a damn reload zone. Or something as simple as that. Or, like if you want to get involved in crypto, maybe you should learn and take an introduction course to the Lunaverse and Fjord. I mean, Fjord could go down and be their fucking minister of finance.
I feel like El Salvador should go all in, and their government education program should probably start at TRI.
Fucking A, man. Damn straight. And this is the guy that did the Kessel run in, what was it, 2 or 3 parsecs? How does that go?
Right.
Because he's the Wookiee, right? But I don't know. Was Chewie with Han when they did that? I don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. Just being silly. But anyway, so the point here, hold my beard. That's good. The point being that believe it or not, actually, I think we're resonating. I think we're actually resonating. I really like that slideshow work that you did, that new slideshow that you did, Grim. That looks really nice.
You like that? Good.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, I tell you, I don't want to derail you any more than I already have, but guys, the work we're doing here at TRI, this is what fuels me for the rest of my week. When I come in and teach on Sundays, I really hope we are making as positive of an impact as I think we are, and as I'm trying to do. This is just absolutely doing the universe's work, in my opinion.
Yeah. And the thing is you got, and a lot of our people, right? You have to go back into that real world Monday to Friday and go, oh, Jesus, what are these? And you go into the office, hey, should we buy Bitcoin? And it's like, get educated. And you should be able to tell me whether I should be buying Bitcoin and tell me where I should be buying Bitcoin. You should be telling me when to buy Bitcoin, not the other way around. Anyway, so yeah, beautiful work, and maybe we'll even have Sharktoshi on. What's cool about Sharktoshi, he's such a cool programmer, is he even goes into level 2, and he talks to the level 2ers when they're doing their introduction to the DI script. What's really cool is actually we have on the website the whole algorithm, everything that's the algorithm is built on that level 2 concept that you guys learned, the DI and the Delacour index. That's my middle name. And this is freaky, right? All of this, the breadth indicator information, but more importantly, when you actually pull up signals, if you happen to be on the site and using the system, and you see this is an image of a concept that started on me when I used to actually get my price charts in the mail, and I used to literally calculate this index by going, MACD is above 0 plus 1. RSI is above 50 plus 1. RSI is not above 75, plus 1. And Williams percentage R is not overbought, plus 1. Whatever. I mean, that's literally how this line started. This is a 30-year project in the making. And it's finally come to fruition. It's shocking, really. And it's beautiful, too. I mean, it's a testament to Fjord. You know what this really is? This is a testament to this community, because I don't think this could have come into fruition without, people like Wookiee here. Big part of people coming to TRI and learning. I believe this is a value proposition. I think the money that we charge you for the various education programs is fair value. It's not like we're trying to scam you out of something or making false promises. We're teaching you a skill set. And it's through that and just dogged determination. I hate to say it, but I think actually building something like this from scratch, this might easily cost well over $1 million in today's dollars. I mean, well over. So there you go. There's my $1 million reward for this cycle. Some people got houses. I got a dashboard. But I'll tell you, now my job as a market participant is so much easier. Oh my goodness, so much easier. And it kind of sucks. And I even tweeted this out recently is if you go down this road of working with things like algorithms and working with things like technical analysis, then you can't bullshit yourself. When you see things like this is what scares me. Commodities on the medium term are overbought. So if this thing starts rolling over here on the short term, you could get a drubbing. I distinctly remember a week or two ago, we were talking to you guys about how crypto and these country funds were overbought here, and this is dangerous. And sure enough, my hunch is over the coming weeks, you're going to see this short-term crypto actually flip into the negative, and probably a lot of these stock indexes, you can see the big index ETFs are already flipping over into the negative here. Although I think I need to update this list. It doesn't have that much information. And what's interesting is that the bonds are actually heavily oversold. You've been hearing me bark and bark and bark about interest rates going up, and sure enough, they have gone up. But ironically enough, we're actually at a situation now where we should actually be thinking, well, you might actually get bottoming signals in the bonds. Now, anybody who understands capital flows and understands the efficient frontier, if you have a bullish bond market, that's not generally too good for risk assets. Remember I showed you this image, right? Which one is it? This one. There are the bonds. If these bonds actually go and bottom out and start rallying, that means that things like stocks and oil and Bitcoin and stuff are calming down. It is deflationary. Bonds are actually rallying. I don't, again, I've talked to you guys about this before. Unfortunately, I literally have to be a bear of bonds now for, probably the next 30 years. Ugh. So generally speaking, tough to make the argument to be investing in bonds. If anything, if you want to invest in bonds, because of course, part of your portfolio should be in guaranteed instruments, you actually want to wait for these big drubbings. And I do have quite a bit of cash on the sidelines. So ironically enough, it's only now that I can actually start thinking about, all right, since we are super oversold on a weekly basis, I can actually start thinking if this thing starts bottoming out and we start seeing W's on the price charts and stuff, I can actually think about starting to go and actually buy a bond, buy interest rate sensitive instruments, because their yields are super, super high right now. So anyway, only time will tell. The point being that we can't really fight this message. If you live an algorithm life, you got to respect it. Now, one thing I was kind of hoping for was that crypto was a bit of a leading indicator. And I think it is. I think it is super, super leading. And I think the market wanted to rally. I really do. But we just ran into a buzzsaw here recently. Just an absolute buzzsaw, right? And that is this silly January barometer. In the 20, 30 years I've been playing this game, I have never seen a January barometer like this. I mean, this is just a train wreck. They say as January goes, so goes the year. So be prepared, folks. What I would like to see is I'd like to see, and I doubt it's going to happen, but I'd like to see, give me a serious kind of rally here, please. Now that we had a massive options expiry, a big derivatives event happen here. If anything, all you level oneers, you're going to be sort of learning about long-term options as sort of insurance policies. And actually, the irony of it all is I'd probably make the argument that there probably were quite a few people that were long calls, playing the big rally. You remember Barstool guys, just buy the dip, always buy the dip, always buy the dip. So really, you could argue now anybody who bought any stock since that fall low, right? There's September, October. If they bought call options, all of those calls just expired, worthless. So, and also too, somebody says, "Hey, there's a gap on the price charts." Yeah, well, is there? We have some sort of static or something that tells us how often these price gaps get filled in? So I think Sharktoshi will be able to answer that question. Yeah. So, and there are a bunch more gaps, aren't there? I mean, hell, if we zoom out on this is a 30-minute chart. I think there's gaps going all the way right back down to the original lows, which is scary as hell. Well, the worst part about this, folks, is I put a tweet out, actually. Check this out, and maybe you don't even know this, but like there were periods in the 1970s where the market like went screaming up and then turned around and went screaming right back down, actually to new lows. And of course, 1970s, that's the last time we had to worry about inflation. So, I mean, is this the kind of environment that we're in? Huge rally off of the crisis bottom, inject tons of money into the market, 2 or 3 year rally, right? There's 70. Could that be 2000? Here's, that's 72. So that would be like 22 here. And then only to see the whole damn thing go actually right back down and break those old lows. Could that happen? Sure. So just understand, folks, our job, if anything, is not to get into the habit of predicting whether this is going to happen or not. That's dangerous. You're just asking for trouble. I like the idea, of course, and what I would teach these South Americans, if I ever, or I guess these Central Americans, right? Probably not a good idea to chase. You always get yourself in trouble if you chase. Draw reload zones, and only at or below reload zones can you start buying. And if you are like, I don't really know what I'm doing, well, for God's sakes, do you really want to step in front of that? Maybe just wait for a W. That's sort of what this is, right? Do you want to step into the face of that? Do you want to step into the face of that? Then notice up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, well, now we got something to work with. At least, and I was telling people on the site, what's the job of technical analysis? The job of technical analysis is just actually to try and identify these consolidation zones here. Whoops. Our job as technicians is trying to identify that so that if I do buy here, I know I'm going to get proved wrong relatively quickly. Pretty simple. And in this particular case, you can see if I basically said that's going to be my risk window and I'm going to force myself and I'm going to take partial profits at least a good 2-to-1 risk reward ratio. This is a really good example of don't chase. Market gaps higher here. And you're like, oh my God, I totally missed the trade. And actually it just came right back down, filled in the gap. Right? So how ironic, eh? Even when a bit underwater. Oh my God, Brian, you're losing me money. Why the fuck do I have my money working with you? Right? You get filled maybe that day right there. This is actually very similar to that trade I started talking to you guys about. Although, it was in crypto and it was a daily chart, but kind of the same sort of thing. So, you work your bid at the original breakout point and, oh, gee whiz, thanks, Brian. I'm filled here and I'm losing money. Well, why do I even bother having my account here? And then all of a sudden, oh, gee, look what happened. So it's a trader's life. I mean, you just don't know. You just got to step up. You got to try to identify these windows. And in this particular case, boom, 2-to-1. Maybe take some profits there. Stop to scratch on remaining. And then just keeps working the sellers. I heard the best fucking line the other day. It was so cool. And it was from one of my business partners. It was just the coolest line. I gotta say, this guy, he's gonna fucking own us all at the end of this. I can totally see it coming. I'm not gonna tell you the asset, But what I'm going to say, and really you could even use this as an example, is price is coming off. Another person says to him, "Oh my God, aren't you worried? Should we sell? Maybe we should sell. Man, this is getting a little ugly. Maybe we should sell." And he said, point blank, straight face, "I sell up markets. I buy down markets." Just as simple as that. End of conversation. I was just like, I didn't say anything. I heard him say it, I saw him type it, and I was just like, oh, bravo, perfect answer. Because this thing was just the asset that he's in. It went from something like 30 cents to over $100. And his account went up substantially because as the market was moving higher, he was paying himself and diversifying. And in this crazy DeFi space, you don't even technically have to sell the asset. All you're doing is just moving it from like one protocol to another protocol. Technically, you're still in the same asset. So he loves the story, but just the answer was just so perfect. I sell up markets. I buy down markets. So ironically enough, when you look at an image like that, what do you think this particular, I mean, keep in mind, how do you think the media is going to spin this? And what do you think the message to the public is going to be? What do you think the public is going to be? I hate to say it, folks, but I wouldn't be surprised tomorrow morning this thing gaps lower. And the talking heads, the Jim Cramers of the world, although I honestly think that guy has the best intentions, but maybe it's a big fugazi. I don't know. But what do you think they are going to be saying? What do you think their message is? And the irony of it all is it's probably the exact opposite of what you should be doing. I look at an image like this, kind of exactly like the Bitcoin chart, ironically enough. I mean, there's really not a hell of a lot of difference. You can see I've drawn out my fractals here, but we're coming into, I think I counted out. I think there's like 7 or 8 lows here. So do we really want to be selling into these lows? Does that make sense? Ironically enough, this is a 50% level of this range. 50% of the total range, we're actually below the 50% rule. Do I really want to be selling here? I don't know whether that makes any sense. So, I just have to say, and you're watching this video right now. You know who you are. I was so damn impressed with that. That was so pro, that response. Just so matter of fact, so plain faced. No. I don't sell down markets. I buy down markets. As soon as this thing turns around, starts rallying, I believe in the fundamental story, I'll be selling on the way back up again. It's just like, damn. All right. I think about a half an hour ago, I was trying to transition into what this video is supposed to be, although I got pretty distracted. I don't know. I often do that to myself. So we have Wookie on the call here, which is kind of cool, and he's sort of barking in whenever he feels like. Anything you'd like to add here right now, here, Wook?
No, I'll let you.
You did?
Let you
Okay.
actually get to this.
All right, thank you, sir. So, and I'm just being silly. No, it's not. David O. Was David O in your class? Do you remember? Was he in sort of the time period you were a student?
He and I were in the same level 1.
Oh, fucking A. So it's cool that we got Grim here as the level 1 instructor, and I'm a really big fan of sort of trying to empower site members to come along and become part of the staff and the teaching and various different things. David, who's an integral part of the site, he was actually our first contest winner. So I was just curious whether you were in the same class as him. So anyway.
It was actually when he won the contest, prompted me out of a little bit of jealousy. I was like, oh man, I wanted to get that. All right, fine. I'll pay for it.
All right. Okay, so point being of all this is fairly large class. I understand we're not going to probably be able to answer every question, especially if Brian's sitting here just babbling on endlessly and wasting everybody's time. Sorry, I'm trying my best here. So we've got multiple TAs. And I even like the idea because I know my Swiss buddy, you told me that you're lurking in the background and you help. You're over in Europe. So maybe you want to reach out to Peter and see if you maybe you can volunteer your services because you said that you like helping with the level oneers. So you know who I'm talking about. You know you. Any of the American audience, any of the American OGs, you want to reach out to Sharktoshi and just let him know that you've got his back if he's feeling a little bit swamped. I'd love that of you. Hugs and kisses in advance. And of course, anybody who wants to reach out to the book and volunteer to be support, I'd love you muchly if that motivates you. I also love the idea. We've been kicking around, and actually somebody even mentioned it recently. It's like, what the hell's happened with Hawaii? What's going on? So actually, I might even now that the fluff is over, we can all sort of calm down a little bit here in the marketplace. We might re-explore that. And the interesting thing about the website is actually, I believe that, like I said, you guys, some of you made millions in the crypto DeFi run-up. TRI did really, really well too, so I can't complain there on that. But my reward this cycle is the dashboards and this awesome tool set. So I'm going to be using this a lot now. Also, too, look, right? Big part of the breadth. I heard you talking a little bit about breadth in the class this morning and how we use stockcharts.com. Like that's basically what this is now students should have a really, really good intermarket analysis relationship tool at their fingertips. So we'll be trying to incorporate that into the education program as well. Okay, so as sort of a final redundancy, we put these Q&A documents together, and the second half of the Broiler Chicken show here on the weekends, I spend answering these questions. So if you do have a question on this site, I know even the level 2ers and level 3ers. I know there was a level 3er because I'm actually Zach's TA for the level 3 because he's coming along as an instructor on the site, which pleases me immensely. And Ray, if you're out there, you're a TA in training maybe, so I need for you to participate in this term. So reach out to me if you're still interested. But basically, this is open to level 2 and level 3ers. Anybody who has a question that maybe is not answered by either Graham or the TAs or Kiran or any of our OGs on the site that know this, generally speaking, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to try and answer this. So there you go. Okay, so you said we'll have a name section. Okay, link Google Docs. Okay, IKEA 123. Not quite sure what IKEA is. That a person? No. All right, I'm not quite sure what the IKEA reference is, but here we are, 23rd of January. Joshua asks, this is an example of a question that I'm asking. Now I'm verklempt. Talk to once yourselves. I'll give you a topic. The chickpea is neither a chick nor a pea. Discuss. We were having fun. I don't know whether that was a reference to today or not, but I was even making reference to that. Was I doing that? I think I was, right? Earlier, about an hour or so ago. Anyway, Joshua's hilarious. Number 2, Lone Wolf says, hey, Brian, I was wondering if you could advise how to copy the charts you use in TradingView to give you an overview of the markets. I've added a picture. Yeah, okay. Also, why have you got these particular charts in place, and what are you trying to interpret from all of them? Some from the picture are quite explanatory, like the Bitcoin chart for crypto. I'm just trying to add these to my TradingView to help with my interpretation of the market. where to go with my current futures trades. All right. Okay, so just simply put, and I don't know whether it's a function of what my level of subscription on TradingView is, but what I like to do is I like to just basically see the whole market in like a snapshot. So that's pretty much what this is, but it does mean that you have to have, number one, the ability to do these multiple panes. But then within each pane, I also break down here, the way I normally have it. Like on the weekend when all of these classic markets are closed, I just do a 2-pane summary of Bitcoin and all the crypto markets. So in essence, I was even posting that on the site through the weekend, right? That's what this is. It's really simple. Because I'm an old pit trader kind of guy, I was taught by all those old timers, and they all use 30-minute charts. I mean, it's just what they do. And on the floor, they actually even have like audio cues when 15-minute comes around, 30-minute comes around, and 1 hour comes around. So for the pit guys and the floor trader guys, those time references are hugely significant. And generally speaking, a lot of them actually trade like off formations. Like I think I heard even Hogue the other day even talking about his value trade, where if a market spends 2 consecutive 30-minute bars inside of a value range, odds are it's going to travel to the other side of that value range. That's a market profile and volume profile reference. So I guess by default, to sort of get an idea of not necessarily like a day trade perspective, maybe more like sort of a swing trade perspective, where are we moving sort of in the intermediate term? I like to follow the 30-minute charts, and M's and W's. It's just that simple, folks. So you can see, coming out of Friday, what was shocking about this? What was shocking about this was that on Wednesday, coming out of that Wednesday crypto show that we do, I was very bullish. I was feeling very optimistic. And the irony of it all is that my little trade setup, religiously, you have to do things like identify your trade and then identify the risk that you're going to have to take on the trade. And you got to pay yourself when the market affords you the opportunity. And a really simple metric I like to use is when you get at least a 2-to-1 risk reward setup. For God's sakes, ring the register. Some, if it's a third, if it's a quarter, it's a half, I don't care. But some people will sell like 2/3 of their position. But when you hit this 2-to-1, you should pay yourself at least a little. Well, some people are like, well, Brian, I trade like 3-to-1. I don't really care. I mean, whatever floats your boat. Could you have justified 3-to-1 based on that A, B, C, D? Okay. I mean, like I said, just knee-jerk, keep it simple, stupid. And half of my job is to just try and keep it as simple as possible, because keep in mind, it's, here's a really good illustration. I'll show you, and I often show people this on the site. You want to see how many ways you can fuck up a trade? This is how many ways you can fuck up a trade. And sometimes you can fuck up a trade without even getting close to do the trades. You've already fucked up before because you didn't even understand how to draw a fib correctly. And you drew a reload zone in the middle of no man's land, and you're like thinking about buying or selling in a terrible location. But these are all the ways that you can fuck up a trade nice and easily. There's probably a hell of a lot more ways you can screw up the trade, but these are often the ways that I've noticed that people screw up. So, I mean, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different ways you can screw up a trade. And this is Dr. Barry Gordon, him kind of saying, you're all smart. You made, hey, I wanted to buy Bitcoin at $10, but you screwed something up here, and you ended up getting liquidated, or you ended up, margin call, or who knows, or maybe you bought an option and it expired out of the money. I mean, maybe you anyway, you did 100x leverage, right? And it moved like that at 1% against you. Boom, man, it's gone. Maybe you put all your money on one of these crypto exchanges and it got hacked, and boom, it's gone. I mean, there's so many ways to screw up at this game. So it's damn important to pay yourself a little bit when you get it right. And, sadly, this is a great example where you could have been, look at me, man, I'm the shit. Nah, there's no way I'm going to sell. Are you kidding? It's going to the man. Look at me. Now, look at this. I got like a 4.5 to 1. If I was, listening to you, Beamish, I'd be, not sitting on all this money, right? And then all of a sudden, whoa, boom, man, you're gone. See you later. Stopped out full loss. I mean, that's a trader's life, folks. It just sucks. And if anything, what's happening in the market right now, I believe, is really, there's two different types of risk that you have to deal with here. What they call unsystemic risk, which ironically enough, in a weird sort of way, is basically the Bitcoin story. It is Bitcoin banned, right? When China went through their China ban, that 2014 bear market, most of that was China ban stuff. But in this game, we have to worry about bigger things when you're speculating, especially on like unregulated exchanges and shit like this, is what we call systemic risk. And that's actually what I think is probably what was driving this. Was it just became when the stock market started falling apart there, and unfortunately when the stock market starts to break, you get margin calls. And it might not even have been a case of Bitcoin actually being bad. It's just a case of when look at what this S&P 500. This is a day trading model that actually I'm so proud of this gentleman on the site. He's come a long, long way with his trading. So this is one of his setups. But you can see, I mean, this was just the selling. It didn't even end at the end of the day. They just kept dumping. So, there is an old, Russia ban. That's what it is, eh? Russia's going to ban Bitcoin. Okay, somebody says Russia. But you think maybe one of these days I'll get around to answering those questions? Jeez. Okay, just quickly try and finish this. I think what happened here is that this became if you can't sell what you want to sell, you sell what you can sell. And so people, maybe they got margin called on a lot of big U.S. stocks. This is painful. This is a lot of money that's getting lost here. And it just sort of became, look at, we got to raise money, so we're not going to get margin called in other places in the market. I mean, look at that drop. And I actually think a lot of the crypto selling that you saw there was just simply, look at, we can't sell what we want to sell. We got a margin call here. We got to come up with cash somewhere. All right, there's that Bitcoin shit that we bought last April, May when fucking Alan was touting this. Why don't we just go and blow that out? All right, fine. That'll sort of solve the margin call problem. So I think that's what's going on here, folks. Anyway, let's see if we can get to these questions. Gee whiz, sure I'm blabbing away here today. What do you think, Chris? If we did a good job? Oh yeah, I was supposed to tell you about this. That's what this was. Oh, what a doofus. All right, well, I'm just trying my best. Hope you guys are enjoying the edutainment. So this matrix, I don't know whether you can do multiple assets on a single pane. Like I said, I've created actually like 8 panes. I don't know whether you can do the 8 panes, but not only have I got 8 panes, but I've actually added symbols. And what I do to add a symbol to a pane is I just simply click on the pane itself, and then I go compare, and then I go like IBM and hit enter. And you see now, where was I? I thought I was down here. Didn't you see it? Oh, you know what? Oh, yeah, there it is. So IBM's now plotted on here, but we don't want it on the same one. So I go, no, that's not what I go. I go settings. Well, actually, you can just do it off of this. I go move to new pane above, new pane below. And now it's a 4. So that's how I set these up, right? So I'll go in and I'll set one of the 8 panes, and I'll just type in Bitcoin. Then I'll, like I did with IBM, I'll just add the symbols that I want, and then I just move them to a new pane below. And then what I do here, like I said, there's the, this is, you said you understood the crypto. So, Bitcoin, sort of big boy, Ethereum, medium, Litecoin is a good shitcoin proxy. The perp is just a sentiment. So you'll learn that in level 2. Total crypto, the DeFi perp, the shitcoin perp, should give you a pretty good idea why I look at those. When the market's doing normally, I actually have these guys, actually not like that. I have it like that, and I have it like that, and one more. And move this forward. Oops. All right. So, yeah, this is how I have it Monday to Friday. They always say U.S. dollar index is basically leading this whole damn market. You can make the argument the whole Western capitalist system is based purely on the U.S. dollar index. So the biggest trading pair it has is the euro. So that's the European versus North American proxy. And for Asia, I think it still is the Japanese yen. So these are the primary movers. Secondary currencies, Swiss franc likes to follow the gold. Canadian dollar usually likes to follow things like oil and natural gas. And Australian dollar usually follows things like base metals, commodity currencies. So in essence, I can get the whole world sort of currency look with these 2 panels right here. Gives me a pretty good idea of where money is flowing in the market. I also like to look at stocks versus bonds, or basically equity versus fixed income. So that's what this is: S&P 500, Dow, NASDAQ, Russell 2000, sort of moving down the food chain. I suppose the Dow would be big, NASDAQ would be NASDAQ 100, then S&P 500, then Russell 2000. So there's 2,000 stocks in this thing down here. This is a pretty good proxy for the junior market. And then comparing, this is equity, this is fixed income. Theoretically, these should move in opposites. So the long U.S. Treasury bond, the 10-year bond, the 5-year bond, and the 2-year note. So it gives me a pretty good idea of what the interest rate markets are doing. Then commodities, gold, silver, those are the metal proxies that I'm following here. We could also follow copper as well, professor of economics. But you can see I've already got a hell of a lot of stuff on here as it is. And then, flip side, these are the risk off. Japanese yen is risk off. Bonds are risk off. Risk on, equity. You could argue to a certain degree the commodity currencies are risk on proxies. The European currencies risk on proxy. Because the Japanese economy is in such stagnation with their demographic situation, there's no growth out of Japan at all. So if Japan is growing, then it's a function of their export market. And what are they exporting into the U.S.? So if that's the case, then a rising Japanese yen, that hurts Japanese exports. They don't want a rising Japanese yen. So if that's the case, if we see a rising Japanese yen and it's trending hard, that means, whoa, people don't want their money in US dollars. They're actually questioning the Fed. They don't want their money in risk assets like the euro. They're going and parking their money in Japanese yen. That's a major risk off bet. That means everybody's like, oh my God, the whole fucking system's about to collapse. So that's how I like to use that. That's sort of like this conversation, right? There. So yen, gold, bonds, those are risk offers. Risk on oil, equity, stocks, and good old crypto. I already told you about the crypto proxies. And then, of course, I like to have a US dollar index sort of intermediate chart with the TA because, like I said, this drives everything. Remember, currencies lead everything in this world. You crypto people absolutely hate when I say that, but it's just pure reality. So, whether you believe me now or hear me later, I don't care. So, hopefully that explains this matrix. Yen correlated with crude oil? No, because Japan has no crude oil whatsoever. So they are very, very vulnerable to crude oil prices. If crude oil prices are rising dramatically, which they are, then that's actually not good for Japan. That's very, very bad. It just means the cost of everything for them is going through the roof. It might be interesting to see the correlation between Japanese yen and crude, and could we create another, like, keep in mind, you asked about this question, but really if I'm gauging the market, I like to do this chart or chart deck, if you will. Same sort of thing, 8 panes, and then I break the panes into a number of different studies. And, here you can see I study the relationship between gold and silver prices. So anybody who's been a long time site member, actually, you should look at this image and you should actually be pretty pleased with what you're seeing here right now, actually. So that's kind of an interesting development. I was not expecting that. But right now, I actually think that, as this is trending higher, that's a bad sign for the economy. The fact that that's actually emming out here, that's actually a good sign for the economy, believe it or not. And it kind of makes sense, right? Things are kind of calming down price-wise. Things are just getting ridiculous there. The only thing that's sort of out of whack right now with the market is the energy price. And interestingly enough, what you're seeing happening is that the energy price increase is being directly interpreted by the very sensitive transportation sector. Where would be a problem, and you'd be like, oh my God, a crash is about to happen, is if you saw that the industrials, which are the blue guys here, if you saw that they kept going up, but the yellow guys, so the blue guys and the yellow guys are all going down together. But if you saw that this yellow was going down, but the blue, but the blue was going up, and you did kind of see that to a certain degree. You see how blue was going up right up at the top here, but yellow was not. Well, yeah, I don't think yellow broke to new highs there, did it? Well, it did a little bit, just a hair. But if you saw a situation where the blue guys were just racing to new highs, but the yellow guys were not breaking out to new highs, that's a major, major, major disaster waiting to happen. So if anything, I actually don't mind the fact that everybody's coming off here together in unison, because once that means this thing actually has bottomed out and petered out and the yellow guys start to sort of W out again, well, then we're back in business. Obviously, no W's anywhere in sight in anybody right now. So we just, it's funny. It's the exact same message for crypto as it is for the stock market. And I just simply said, I said this, in a sort of social media context, but it's exactly the same, whether it be crypto or whether it be stocks. Oh, darn. I think it was this tweet feed. Somebody said, well, is it time to buy? And I was like, geez, till we see W's, I think we just got to do one thing and one thing only. That is, come on, baby. I know you're in here. There we are. Who can tell me what are we supposed to do if we see Brian posting that image? And really the bottom line here is I don't get any benefit if you go and spend your money in the marketplace. I don't care. I don't lose any money if you go and spend your money in the marketplace. There's no incentive one way or the other for a guy like me. The only incentive is, do I keep guys like Wookie here still believing in me and still saying that, this Beamish guy, he's a demonstrator of good practices. I'll stick working with this guy. I don't know, Wookie, do you think I've got the best intentions in mind here?
If you didn't, I wouldn't be here.
There you go. So I'm going to take that as yeah, Brian, you're fucking awesome.
Brian, you're fucking awesome, man.
Oh, thanks, man. Oh, you're a sweetheart. Hugs and kisses. No, he wasn't paid to say that, was he? It doesn't matter now. We're not selling anymore of you guys. You've already bought the course. Registration's closed. This is a really weird business. And David was even kind of like, okay, so you're actually going to run a business where you say, sorry, you're not going to buy anything now. Go away. Come back later some other day. David's like, you're crazy. But that's the way, I don't know, that's the way it seems to work around here. So, you can PM Julian. If you're watching this today and you're like, fuck, man, I got to get into this goddamn program. You can PM Julian, but I'm telling you, you're running this really, really late. My hunch is you're probably best just to wait till I guess now next intake will be sometime in late spring. So, and if anything, it's probably good because remember I showed you that Dycennial chart thing? Man, guys, I just, this guy's a fucking, well, all these guys are so awesome. But I wanted to show you, there's a reason why, and, the funny thing is Larry Williams guy, he goes, I've been at this game for 60 years. 60 years. Holy Jesus, that's a long time. And he's like, why fight this? The market itself, whether it be January barometer, the beginning of years that end with twos, it's not usually a good start. The good part about this, though, is that usually years that end in twos actually mark the bottom. Like they say, the bull market that started the baby boomer cycle was in March of 1982. Go back and look. Go on. If you don't believe me, go on Google. Well, and somebody says there, can you really see the U.S. economy improving with Mr. Biden at the helm? I would actually say, to be perfectly honest with you, Andre, and please write this down because I'm going to quiz you about this later on. Let's see whether you actually are listening to me. The U.S. economy is in what phase right now? Is it in a growth phase or is it in a fear phase? Is it growing or is it contracting? And I don't think a lot of you understand this. Let's see whether you people on YouTube can answer this question. Just try and answer it, Andre. Do you know? Does it not make sense that, especially all you right-wing people, Mr. Trump actually changed a lot of the rules to make it so that the United States is a hell of a lot more competitive on the world stage. Thank you, Adam. No, this has absolutely nothing to do with government stats. I don't give a shit about government stats. That doesn't mean anything here. I mean, try and think of it demographically. Is there a generation? Who's the biggest generation block in the marketplace now? And what are they doing in their life cycle? And I don't care about the government. The government is meaningless. The answer is, this is the whole damn teaching I'm trying to teach you guys. Maybe I need to do a better job. Maybe I'm just not doing it. Wookie, do you believe in this shit? I don't know whether you even believe in this shit.
No, I absolutely do.
Okay. I mean,
No,
you got to understand here, folks, we are heading into a massive growth cycle. And I told you before, the interesting thing is now, I show you this guy's now I'm getting my head's about to explode. I've shown you guys this image repeatedly. Does not this look awfully familiar? I mean, when I look at this looks almost identical. So I would say that ironically enough, whoever's the president of the United States, you like that? Somebody goes, wow, that was special. It doesn't matter. What matters is the stage is set. And, if the market has to wait 4 years, has to move through another U.S. president, doesn't like this president, it's sort of like fighting the tide. You can't fight the tide. Tide's always going to win. So anyway, I can't remember what triggered me on all that. But the point I would just say is interestingly enough, actually, I really like this study. And maybe this is the study I think I have to give you guys, because I saw that the document, I don't know whether the document was updated, Wiki, but I don't know what, this is my most recent one. I think the one that you had in the class. I'm going to put this
I could probably use putting that in there if you can give me a link to it.
I added a couple others. I don't know whether you go look at that document, the Q&A document. I actually added a couple more of these charts.
Awesome.
So I added this chart, and I added this chart, right? The Fugazi versus real, just so you can kind of understand those growth cycles, and the students, right? The scary thing is that I think we are on this cycle, but this is the diluted. So what does the undiluted sort of proxy look like? This fucking number could just be absolutely insane. I don't see any reason why they can't take this thing easily over 100,000, probably even in this current cycle. So, it's going to look like this, right? Ultimately, if you do the split, the dilution adjusted. Now, we might go through a period if we're really lucky. Unfortunately, it won't be lucky for things like Bitcoin. But if we actually went through a period where the Fed said they were reducing their balance sheet, they're going to undilute the currency, they're actually going to reduce the capital stock. What do you think that's going to do to something like Bitcoin? Bitcoin's an inflation proxy. That's deflationary. Bitcoin's price is going to fall, right? So it'd be really interesting. Maybe if we're really lucky, save our actual society. Because keep in mind, I don't know whether this, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to fucking go to a grocery store and pay $100 for a fucking loaf of bread. I mean, I don't want to live in that world. Do you really want to live in that world? Fine, your Bitcoin's $100, $200, $500,000 a Bitcoin, but your loaf of bread's $100. Merry fucking Christmas. I don't really want to live in that kind of world. But anyway, that's it. It makes sense why Bitcoin's doing what it did. And it makes sense. I go to the grocery store now. Fuck, I mean, it's embarrassing, the prices. And it's getting worse. Now, like I said, the sacred cow in our society is you're not allowed to touch things like milk prices. Because, hey, that's for the babies, right? The babies don't fuck with the milk. You banksters, grown-up people, you want to tax vice, smoking, drinking, gambling. You want to, tax incomes, great. But I can understand that somewhere God said, thou shalt not fuck the kids. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe Jerry's got a little bit of a heart in him somewhere where he's kind of going, look, we can't fuck the kids. But our local politicians, they figured out a way to fuck the kids. Bastards. I couldn't believe it. You're not allowed to touch milk prices, and yet they figured out a way to raise milk prices. These cocksuckers. Oh, well, what can you do? All right. So we got one question answered. Not bad. 2.5, 3 hours worth of work. I'm doing pretty well here. I do have to get off to Liam here soon, so I'm sorry, folks. You probably, oh, Jesus, I could be here all day. I'm going to try and go through as many of these as can. As soon as we hit the top of the hour, though, I got to call it a day because I got to go get pretty for Liam. He hates when I show up ugly. And if I'm late, he doesn't like that either. So, and you know what I did notice is I did my Wednesday show on Bitcoin, and I didn't ask for your guys' PMA and best wishes and stuff for my Thursday visit, and Liam was not in a good mood on Thursday, and I was fighting with his fucking care worker people. So I tell you, man, knock on wood. Ooh, okay, that too. I just broke something. Okay, let's see. Number 3 here. Let's move on. Do you think it's an okay idea to sell real estate in the near future because of the fear, greed, cycle transition and save the money to potentially reinvest them in equities based on the coming years of hard times and low prices and better cycle? Oh, Jesus. I mean, she's. Let me just get. I'm gonna go get my crystal ball. I'll be right back. I mean, honestly, I haven't got it. I will tell you this. I believe that they are going through the process of quote unquote normalizing interest rates, but most of that process actually has been done. The only thing that's really missing is if they can just somehow bring this Fed funds rate and the short-term interest rates off the zero line. But here's a look at the medium-term bond market, right? The process of this working its way up into these areas. This is doing is quote unquote just normalizing rates after our fucking Jupiter Saturn cross insanity there. Right. And, MMT people actually saying, hey, you know what? We got a shot at this. No, you don't. But we got to make money back normal, what it normally should be. The only reason why this happened was because of that Jupiter Saturn cross. You don't believe me? JP Morgan, he said himself, millionaires don't respect astrology, billionaires do. So from that perspective, and in a weird sort of way, can you see that the inflation deflation fight that they've been having for like literally 20 years now is finally starting to turn back up? Now, I don't necessarily think this is going to go apeshit here. I think what happens is, they're going to quote unquote normalize rates. And if they don't, the way to see what I'm trying to say 3 things at once. Just give me a second. Okay. The market, and this is what I find really interesting about economies, is people think that the central banks actually have control over the interest rate cycle, and they don't. So go back and watch previous Broiler Chickens Daily Briefs to me explain this. I'm not going to go into too much detail. All I'm going to say is the banksters, the people, the Fed, the people in control at 1%, they cannot let this ratio get too far apart. If they let this spread get too far apart, then it does crazy things like 2008. You see this spread got up above 100. Anytime this spread gets above 100, that is quote unquote financial crash scenario. So we do not, and here's 1.0 over here, right? So there's 1.0 there. So it's interesting. The first Fed repo they did, that was back in 2002. and they wouldn't let that happen. That was interesting. That was around George Bush's presidency. But you can clearly see here is the corporate interest rate market in orange, and blue is the U.S. Market, the Fed funds. So these two generally have to move in unison. When you start seeing this spread start to trend higher, means that the corporate interest rate market, which is really the real interest rate market, it's trending, right? Interest rates are moving higher here. And the Fed has no choice. They have to keep pace. They cannot let this get up above 100. So you notice it got above 100, financial crisis, end of the world. So interesting. This relationship went the exact opposite way into that the sickness, because we had an interesting situation here where actually the whole damn system just seized up. But you can see the system is coming back online. And the corporate market, in essence, the demand for interest rate bearing vehicles is starting to ramp up, right? These are rates here. Actually, these are prices, beg your pardon. Rate is the inverse of this. So corporate interest rates on the short end are rising. There's just, you can't fight that, right? And the spread, you can see it. The Fed doesn't want to do anything if they don't have to. So the fact that this spread is widening, yes, the spread now is cranking up here. They cannot let this get out of control. And so my hunch is they're going to have to come off the zero line at some point and start closing this exactly like they did before. So this isn't anything new, don't get me wrong. But the point here is that a lot of people believe that the Fed can just set the price of money at whatever they want, and they can't. You just can't do that. In a crisis scenario, when the economy is extremely weak, the Fed should be, and this is the whole purpose of the Fed, is they should be considered, quote unquote, the lender of last resort. But that's it. They can't be the lender of every day, because if you get into that kind of world, eventually they're going to run out of money. And I hate to say it, but I think that's exactly what's going on right now, is they have to basically keep pace. Their hands are tied. And that's probably one reason why the stock market's acting the way that it is that it realizes that the Fed doesn't really have any choice in the matter. So anyway, the interesting thing is that the either one, the equity risk market just collapses here, and then hopefully you actually see the corporate interest rate market calm down, because the inflationary pressure of rising asset prices has dissipated. But if this thing keeps trending higher, now you can see as the stock market is starting to come off, you can see that the euro dollar market is ticking up here, and that spread is coming in a little bit. So either A, the stock market crashes, and then the Fed goes, okay, well, the euro dollar market's pretty happy now. It's starting to trend higher. We don't have to do anything. Or the stock market stabilizes and this keeps working lower, and the Fed has to raise interest rate, and the stock market slowly works its way lower. Ironically enough, that's the scenario that I think you want. Because you want the Fed to break this. You would ideally like the spread to be emming out and starting to work its way back down, which means the cost of money, the inflation threat is abating. And I think the way that it's going to happen is that it's going to be like that long, slow grind. We're in January right now. And like we showed you with Mr. Larry Williams, I think this all plays out by like the middle of the summer. Right, that's this, right? So this is the process. We've got to get those euro dollar markets happy again. Does it mean that the Fed has to raise rates? Or does it mean that the stock market and risk assets simply calm down and the euro dollar market calms down? And then as soon as that relationship gets happy again, then I think, woohoo, we're off to the races again. So, hope that helps. Do I really want to get into the business of advising you when to move large chunks of money in and out of the market in one transaction and expect that I'm going to perfectly time that transaction? I'm not going to get into that business. That's way, way too difficult. And frankly speaking, I actually expected the Canadian real estate market to break in 2018. So here we are now in 2022, 4 years later. And they always say, right, if you want to take a market down, what do you first do? And actually, I'd be curious to see whether anybody on YouTube even knows this answer. If Wall Street wants to take a market down, what do they first do? Ironically enough, they take it up. And I look at these Canadian banks, and the hallmark of an end of a bull market is usually the assets are going straight up. So ironically enough, I'm not even really too worried about the US market, like something like Intel that hasn't even gotten back to its 2000-year highs. I mean, you could argue that if you invested in Intel right here, you're getting basically the past 20 years for free. Sounds like a good deal to me. I could go in and invest in Intel here at the price I could have invested Intel in January 1st, year 2000. 20 years for free. Sounds good. I mean, to me, that's smart. I mean, would I make the same argument about Microsoft? Here's price 20 years ago. So looking at something like Intel, that's not a bad idea. But how about something like a Canadian bank, which would be a proxy on sort of the Canadian real estate market? 20 years, this damn thing was, $17 a share? Now it's $144 a share? You want me to invest in that there? Yeah, so Aaron said the house assessment went up 33% in 1 year. What the fucking fuck? That's crazy. Is that not the definition of hyperinflation? It's you know, and also too is this is what really pisses me off about this is a fucking mugs game. This is a syndicate. Why do you think, what's the one key beneficiary of them reassessing, there's the key word, the value of your house 33% higher? Who wins in that scenario? And this is what really, really bugs me. It's what caused and made the U.S. housing crisis and disaster as bad as it was, and it will be the undoing of a country like Canada. This is a syndicate, and these politicians and the real estate developers and brokers and the banks, they are setting us up for exactly the same scenario that you saw happen in the United States in 2008. Excellent. So Andre says, sounds like 06 to 08. I had assessments up higher than that. So the writing is on the walls, folks. It's fascinating. We just got to this really, really important statement here, and all of a sudden the viewers just dropped off like a rock there. Incredible. I tell you, there's disaster just written all over this. I mean, anybody who's going to go and invest in something like that, you're crazy. If you want to invest in these banks and stuff, you know, I mean, you see how violent these pullbacks can be. They can just be earth-shattering. The problem is, oh, gee whiz, I want to go and look at Royal Bank of Canada. How did it act the last time we went through one of these cycles? Who can tell me what is the year window? I'd be curious if you can. I've already given you the answer at least a couple times here today. But what is the comparable year window we're in historically? And interestingly enough, I think actually the Canadian bank stocks look almost exactly the same as this in that window. what is the year that we should actually be trying to compare this against? And mysteriously, oh, there's just no data here. Now, why on earth is that the case? Are you trying to tell me the Royal Bank of Canada was not a publicly traded company in the year 1995? What? So it's almost like the people that are giving you this data, they're not even helping the situation here. Do you think that maybe that's actually finessed a little bit by the banksters themselves? They would prefer that you not know what happened the last time we were in a very similar cycle. I hate to say it, folks. It doesn't do them any good if you could see an asset that goes, woohoo! Awfully tough for you to make the sales pitch, buy our stock. Oh, our economy is doing perfectly fine. But I'll tell you, if it's one thing you can learn from me is, for God's sakes, when you see assets do this, is that the start of a move or the end of the move? Yeah, the point is, Andre, 1980 was the peak in the last fear cycle. Go look at your price of gold to see what fear assets did through that cycle peak. And 1982 was a horrendous recession for Canada. And the stock market stock market, I mean, it did badly along with everybody. Well, Paul Volcker's war on inflation. But the Canadian real estate market got absolutely destroyed. So, are they setting us up for a repeat? Looking at that chart, I'd say, yeah, they are. The problem is where the fuck does this insanity end? I mean, this is technically a pseudo-government agency. So, to me, there's a fiduciary responsibility from these people themselves not to let this happen. They actually have a fiduciary responsibility to our society. Like, ideally, what you really want to see, and maybe it's like that, right? If we put this log scale and they say, well, Brian, what's natural growth? All we want to do is just grow naturally. I don't know. Maybe natural growth is something like that. Are we 5? Damn. But that's my soundbite. We're going to work on trying to keep Brian honest here going forward. I mean, the problem here is, you can see if we brush up against these, like oof and oof, right, and oof, and we go way beyond it. Oh boy, we're going to go all the way back down, and oof. So here we are brushing up against the top of this channel. Shouldn't somebody come in here and go, okay, enough's enough. Don't fucking get out of control here. Because when you get out of control, look what has to happen on the other side. Kaboom. Oh, boy. And I have a feeling that this is the scenario that we're facing here. It's like this and like this. Oh, anyway. Okay, so I got to 2 questions. Unfortunately, I can't make that kind of big statement. All I'm going to say is Brian usually is right, but he's usually early. And this cycle is no different. I remember back in 98, Ralph Alcampura called a top in the U.S. stock market. I was right there with him going, this is crazy. Market didn't break until halfway through. Actually, it was about 3/4 of the way through 2000. That was like 3 years later. U.S. housing market, I remember 2005, 2006, 2007. We were going, man, this is going to break. It's going to break. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. You just didn't know when it was. Turns out it was 2008, and George Bush and all his cronies, they ran the market. Fucking abandoned ship all together all at once. My hunch is it's this fall that they break the market. But I think it's entirely predicated on we have to get beyond this sickness. So right now you got this current version of the sickness going absolutely insane. I don't see anything stopping right now. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another round of shouldn't we debate mortgaging our future? Shut the fuck up. Give them more free money. Inflation. Right? I wouldn't be surprised. That would not surprise me. But I think that actually comes, believe it or not. I think they're going to try and spend the next 3 or 4 months. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh yeah, looks like it died. It's not live, but what says a funny screen share? What is that? Oh, okay. I can't. That's YouTube going. Okay, Beamish. Even this is a bit much. I mean, come on. Okay, I should wind this up, eh? Yeah, that's right, Adam, and I would agree with that. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really see any reason why the Canadian real estate market shouldn't really bottom until probably about, my opinion, maybe 2030, 2035, somewhere in there. And that's when I actually think that the Canadian real estate would be a buy again. But that's a long, long, long way down the road. And the worst part about it is, I remember recently, like this cycle thesis said that everything should have stopped 2018, right? The end of 2017, beginning of 2018. That was the 35-year cycle from beginning to end. And then mysteriously, we went into this global reset talk. I mean, in fact, I don't remember 5 years ago, there was no such talk as this. And then all of a sudden, mysteriously, we have this sickness and all this kind of craziness. So I do kind of, you could make the argument that the Second World War was the spending catalyst that justified the reflation of the currencies to set the stage for the next cycle, right? That's all this talk. And I might argue that this go round, they're not going to have the U.S., they're not U.S., they're not going to have the Second World War as their great reset. It's the sickness. So, call it as you will. I mean, me personally, the message always stays the same to me. I'm very disappointed that a few people in our society can make such a dramatic impact as to destroy the standard of living of so many millions of us. But they have. It's been done. I love the idea that maybe if we're really lucky, we're going to establish some sort of best practices. Maybe be a drop in that puddle. Try and affect change over the next 20, 30 years. The good part about it, hopefully all of you realize when I say growth cycle, I hope you realize there is a lot of money to be made here investing in growth stories. Like you all know. Yeah, okay, you're right. I gotta get out of here. It's already 10 after, isn't it? Oh God, I can keep going on and on and on. I'm just so jealous because Grim gets to talk at no end.
It's true. I have no boundaries, but we love you, man. We just want Liam to be happy too.
Anything. So everybody give a collective good luck with Liam. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. Let's hope Liam's in good spirits. Drive safe, Brian. I haven't really been talking too much about what to buy in the marketplace right now because, as you probably can see, not a hell of a lot to buy, and we probably should cool our jets for a little bit. Was in a few positions, actually got stopped out of a couple, so I'm playing conservative right now. Don't need to be aggressive. We'll, I tell you what, we'll pick up the questions tomorrow. So sorry, public. I would like to have the questions answered. So Monday is kind of a Brian day. Oh, actually, we have Seward, don't we? So maybe what I'll do is the second half of the daily brief, we'll circle around and come back to the questions, because I wouldn't mind answering them for you. So if you did have a question in here and you were like, Brian, I really need that answer, like I see somebody asking about the Demon Finder and stuff, we'll pick it up tomorrow, okay? So I think we'll leave it at that. Hope you guys got some value out of all the rant here today. Thanks for being on the call. You're welcome. It was awfully nice having a co-host here to a certain degree. And we've also had a great support from Chris. Chris got my back stealthily in the background. Why don't we play a little bit of music on the way? Oh no, we better not do that. We get in trouble that way. You know what? You better be careful with that, Chris. Make sure that that's something that's not going to trigger those YouTube algorithms, because sometimes when you play music on these videos, all hell breaks loose. So just be careful with that too. I just thought about that as well. So. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Sure hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, leave a comment. I think I asked you a couple times to leave comments. Hey, everybody leave a comment saying good luck with Liam today. And then that way I can show him. I go, look, Liam, all these people wanted us to have good luck today. Wouldn't that be cool? So there you go. That's kind of a cheap way to get comments. Hit the like button, subscribe, ring Grimm's bell. Maybe. I don't know. All right, everybody. All the best.